Stay tuned for Airgun Detectives.
Welcome to another episode of Airgun Detectives. I'm your host, JC. Today, we're going to take the mystery out of how to put a piston seal in a Hatsan Dominator. This one's a 25 caliber. And to be honest with you, I was going to originally review this rifle, but what happened, let me show you real quick. I was running it through a Chronograph Test, and let me show you what the results were here. Watch that for a second. All right, let's see how well our Hatsan Dominator does over the chronograph. We're just going to shoot some 20 grain pellets. We'll shoot 5 over the Chronograph, average it out, see how we do. All right. Stuck in my finger. Okay. Shot number 1. 520. Shot number 2. 519. Not a whole lot of power, but pretty good standard deviation so far. Shot number 3. All right. 521. Shot number 4. 508. And last but not least, 516. Well, you can see it's still backyard friendly. It's under that 100 decibels. My question is the power. This thing's advertised at 650 feet per second with a lead pellet. One of the lightest lead pellets you can get are the 20 grain. We're way under that. So we might have to take a look inside this. So stay tuned for the next segment. Okay, so after I saw those results, I'm like, nah, I can't review this in all fairness to this gun, because this gun has performed better than that. So I decided to change out the piston seal, and I'm going to take you through the steps. But do me a favor, if you guys haven't, don't forget to subscribe down below there. And if you like what you see, please give me the thumbs up. And in addition to that, you want to be notified new videos coming out, go ahead and hit that little bell. And don't forget, once again, I'm going to talk about these firearm guards. If you want to save these precious items, don't forget. These absorb moisture, save your precious metals from rusting. So I set you up with a special code, Airgun. You get free shipping on these. They're under $15. Well worth the investment. Hey, also, I want to thank Lori again for providing us with a piston seal. She's from the Custom Air Seals of Australia. And I'll put a link down below. They're one of the few places that you can actually find seals for the variety of the rifles, like the Hassans, the Gamos, quite a few of them, and they have all of them. They're some high quality seals, I have to tell you. They also have gas rams for various amounts of different rifles, so check them out. I put their website link below. And again, thanks, Lori. Anyway, so I'm going to take you through the steps of how to replace the seal. I apologize if some of the camera angles were bad. I was in an extremely warm garage, my garage, and sometimes the camera angles weren't good, so I tried to edit it the best you could see. But let's go through and change the piston seal. And then I'm going to go ahead and run this through a Chronograph again and show you the difference in performance. Okay, so watch the replacement, and then we'll be back to chat with it real quick. I'm going to show you guys how to change a piston seal. I'm not going to show you how to unscrew this from the stock, because I have to show you that. You have no business changing the seals. But there's obviously the screw on the side here, and then you got one on the bottom. Okay, this spring needs to come off here. So that's the first thing we're going to do. You just got to get in there with a pair of wheel nose and get that spring loose. I like to have one of these magnetic trays just to throw everything in. The other main thing is, see this pin right here? This is what actually holds the sear in and pretty much the whole trigger assembly. So what I did was I made, let's see if you can see this, I made a small pin. So what I can do is I can push this pin out with this pin, and it's small enough where it will slide in between these brackets, and I'll show you later as we pull that out. So we can knock actually that big pin out, and I can put the little pin in its place. So you just take this and I push that just right in like that, and this holds the trigger assembly, so we pulled a little pin out, but this holds the little trigger assembly in place. What else needs to come off is the safety mechanism. It's a little pin right there. That's got to come out. That little pin comes out. So we come back here. So after obviously we get the spring off, we got our little pin in there, which creates a little bit of clearance. And we see we want to always keep a pin in there to keep that sear going. So then if we can bring this down flush right here, and this little piece should slide forward. Just like this. See, this little piece comes forward. You can see that. Let's see. This little piece slides forward. Then you can just move this all the way forward, out of the way for now. Just, that's fine. But if you'll notice, this right here, these are welded on, and this is what actually holds part of your trigger assembly in. So, other than that, we have our safety on this side. So here's our safety mechanism here. As you can see, a little spring there, this little slide plate kind of goes right in here. This needs to be unhooked. A little safety just slides right on. Okay? So this piece, that can stay put right there. That doesn't have to go anywhere. Alright, so we have our trigger assembly here. You guys are wondering, this is where you actually can fill the piston on this. I highly recommend you don't mess with it, because if you overinflate it, the gun's going to shoot bad. If you underinflate it, it's not going to have enough power. You might not be able to bleed the piston, so I would stay away from that for the most part. Okay, as I said before, you want to leave the back pin in. That's going to hold the pressure on the piston here. And the two front pins is what you want to come out, okay? And that's what holds the trigger assembly. So you should be able to pull those out, and then the trigger assembly, just, you know, like I said before, make sure these pins stay in there. But this trigger assembly will just come right out, just like that. You see that? Come right out, just like that. See, here's your whole trigger assembly. And there's our little pin that we put together, because see, it's keeping the sear in place. Because if you're just to knock the pin out, the sear comes down, and then you have to reassemble pretty much your whole trigger. So this way we get to keep it all intact. Okay. So now you got the pin here in the back, which is actually holding pressure on the piston. So what we're going to need to do on this is we're going to need to put a clamp on here, put just a little bit of pressure on here. With the gas piston, it does not take much. We're just going to put a little bit of pressure on this, and then we're going to be able to pull that pin out. And when the pin comes out, the assembly will come out. Okay, what we did is we just used this little Venturi clamp on here. So we're going to be able to put a little bit pressure on the back of this. And you wonder, this is kind of crazy the way this is set up, because you have this thin little piece of plastic back here. So what you have to do is you got to put something in there that's going to absorb the pressure. And so what I like to do, I like to take a big piece of wood and set it in there. Believe it or not, yes, a big piece of wood, just like this. And all we need is just enough to get this little pin out right here. Okay, that's all there was to it, see? Pin came out. And we're going to loosen up this clamp. It's all that you needed for that to come out. Then we got to take this loose. You guys can see this. Got to take my clamp loose. Okay, got my clamp off there. So now, it's a coming. It's amazing how tight sometimes these things fit in here. It's just crazy. There we go. There we go. There we go. That's what we were hoping for. We get that out, and guess what? Now everything else comes out piece of cake. Nothing to it. So here's your gas piston, but it says 125 bar right there. So you don't want to have this charged more than 125 bar. That's the reality of it. Okay. So next, what comes out of here is your chamber. Of course, this is lubed up. Okay, here's our chamber. Okay, this is our chamber. And this is our piston. And on the end of this, it's going to be our piston seal. So this is what we're going to change out. We're going to change out our piston seal. This little guy right on the end here. See that? It's a little hard. You can tell it's a little hard. I don't see any nicks in it, but maybe we're getting some blow-by on it. We will see. But anyway, we're going to change that out with this seal right here. So let's get set up for that, and I'll show you how to do that. Now we got to try to get the seal off of here. And they're usually on there pretty hard, so I like to take a heat gun and kind of warm it up. All right. Get your little pin in there and just kind of hook it. There we go. Got it off just like that. You want to clean this thing off. Make sure there's no burrs on it. I like to hit that with a little 1000 sandpaper. Just make sure this is smooth. I don't want any burrs on this thing. All right. And I personally, I like just a dab of just a little bit of lubrication on this, because you really don't want this in the chamber. But I just put a little bit, very lightly, because I'm going to slide that seal over here. I don't need anything on the top, because the idea is you want to keep all that. You want to keep out your molly. You want to keep that out of the front of the seal. Then we're going to take our other seal. I have this cool little tool my friend Mike Millick put together. What we do is put the seal in like this. I'll show you guys. Put the seal in like this. Then I flip it over. We push it down till the seal is stretched. Like, bring this over the top like this, and line this up on your piston. Push down on that like this. We got our new piston seal on there just like that. Yeah, Mike Millick made that. Gotta hand it to him. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hone. I'm gonna take some 1000 grit sandpaper, and I'm gonna hone the inside of this out, make sure it's nice and smooth. Okay, what I made these different size wood dowels, and then cut a little groove in them. And what you can do, see, as you can see, I have different size ones, so we find out our size that fits this the best, which is this one. You can see that slides in. What you do is you take your 1000 grit sandpaper, and the little notch that you cut in the wood here, you just slide these in just like this, just like that, right? And then it's gonna rotate to the right, so we're gonna rotate our paper just like that. Just like this, see that? Just like that. Then I take a drill motor on this end of it, and basically on this end I just took a bolt. I drilled a nice straight hole in the bottom. I put a bolt in there, I cut the end of it off, that way I can get a drill motor on the end of this. And then what I'll do is I'll spray like a little WD-40 on the wet and dry, it's 1000 grit, and then I'll just rotate this with a drill motor. So you're just going to use a drill motor, and I usually like to clamp this in a vise, but you get the idea, right? So you're going to just buff that out the inside so it's nice and smooth. And I like myself to use a little WD, something like that, as a lubricant for the wet and dry. Okay, so now we've got our piston seal on. Now we have our chamber. And you want to make sure the inside of this is really, really cleaned out, nice and smooth. There's no oil, no residue left in there, because that's what can cause dieseling. So now our next move is we're going to go ahead and we're going to lubricate up our piston and the seal here, and we're going to put it inside our chamber. All right, I'm going to go with a little bit of super moly paste. People use all kinds of different things. but let's just go with this today. And I like to lube up. You go right to the edge of the piston, right? I like to just paint it on here. I don't want anything up on top, but I'll lube up the whole piston here, just for the heck of it. Yeah, there's a little graphite in this. Anywhere this thing's gonna wear, potentially rub. I like to get this all covered. Very thin coat. Just like that. I'm going to make sure you don't have anything on the top here. Clean that off. Just like that. And then I take a little bit, smear a little bit on the inside here. Especially when it's coming over these little notches, because you don't want the. And you'll see there's a notch on this side. Okay, that's going to be for your bear trap, and then you have the part here which your actual cocking rail will go down inside. So we want to line this up roughly, just like that. Kind of rotate that piston in there just a little bit. Kind of just want to slide it gently in. You don't want it to. The other thing I like to do, you can take a little piece of plastic like this, right? You'll put it. You got to get them different sizes. I did this on a little pill bottle. But if you see, you slide it on the little lip like this, and then it keeps your piston from catching. And you just kind of slide this out. There you go, and then it slides straight on in just like that. And you can do the same thing over here for this one. Okay. Just like this. Just get it right to that edge. And what it does, it helps it get over that lip, see? Now we're in. So I want this lined up with this line here. There you go. So we're lined up here, we're lined up there. Perfect. I only use this super moly paste for the interior. In other words, for inside the chamber. Outside the chamber, this needs to be lubricated. What we're going to use for this is a little clear tar. Just a little clear tar. So we're just going to lube the outside of this down just like this. But rather than bore you with this, I'll just finish this up. We'll move to the next section. We got this all lubed up with our clear tar. Now we're just going to slide it back into the chamber. Now the chamber, you can also hone this out if you like. Already did that. So now our next move is just to slide this back in. So let's flip this all the way upside down so the notch is showing. And then what we want to do is our backward notch. So you got a notch here on this side, an opening, and you got an opening on that side. Okay? Your bear trap is on here. That's what this notch is for right here. And this one is going to be for your cocking rail. So let's just simply slide this in here. Okay? And again, you want your inner piston lined up with this notch right here. There's an opening here. You want that lined up with this opening here. Just slide that in. You're going to have to push your little bear trap right here. And just slide that all the way in. So it goes all the way to the front. That's it. All right, let's move to the next part. Let's go ahead and put our piston back in. Our gas ram, whatever you want to call it, right here. Let's go ahead and slide that baby in. And then it's got a couple of holes that it needs to line up with. You're going to have one hole there for the filler valve. And then on the other side, it's going to be right here for your bleeder valve. Okay. Okay, now the key is you want to make sure that you push this back in and you get it straight. So, as you can see, there's multiple holes. So one of the tricks that I do, I like to take a little nickel, put it on here, get a fat punch, right? See that? Just like that. and then just give it a little tap. And it'll only go so far. Don't think it's going to go all the way in, because it's not. Okay, but the key is you need to make sure your holes are somewhat lined up, which they are. So our next move is then going to be put the clamp back on here. So let's throw the clamp back on here. I want to show you guys something. This is all the farther. I'm seriously, it's just a fraction. It's like a 1/16 of an inch. That's all the farther it sticks out. That's all the pressure you're going to need to put on that in order to get your pin back in. And now we're going to be putting in the back pin. Let's push this in just a little bit. I like to just give a little bit of tap on this last pin, and then it slides right in. That pin's going to keep it in place. That is all there is to it. You'd think it's a lot more complicated than that, wouldn't you? And believe it or not, the Hatsan's kind of one of the more difficult ones in my opinion because of that trigger assembly. Okay, now we're ready for our trigger assembly. So here's our trigger assembly. You can see that. Try to keep all your pins pretty much centered. My little homemade pin is in there, which is holding the sear together. And you got your safety on this side. Can you see that? Okay. So now what we want to do is drop this right down here. These two holes here, you can see that. Those two holes here are going to line up with these holes down here. So we just want to get that lined up right through here. That's it. It's that easy. See, now our little pin is right there, so what we'll do is we'll now take this little pin and push our other little pin out. But we're not going to do that yet, because what we need to do is we need to put this assembly in next. Okay? And that is pretty easy. Move this. You could actually take this off if you want, which is fine. And then this little piece, see the cocking arm? It's going to go down into this little notch right here. Alright, so that little notch then is going to go right in here. See, there's the back section of this, you can see the piston back here, and this is actually the compression tube. This is going to catch in the compression tube just like that. It's going to hook in just like that and then come down. Okay? So, as far as putting this pin back in, just bring that up at an angle. Pretty simple. Line the hole up like that, and then the pin pretty much should just go through the assembly here. Here's your pin in the front. So you got your pin in the front, we got our cocking arm in, and look, we have our trigger assembly in. But what are we forgetting? This piece right here. What you want to do, take this little pin here, and you can actually the catch here, just rotate that forward a little bit and get your room to where you can hook this on, just like that. See that? And what you want to do is then rotate this backwards where it was, like that. Slide this forward, and then this is going to go, you can watch this, this is going to go right back in between here, just like that, and slide it in. This back pin here, you're going to push that pin in so it's flush, and it lines up just like that. See that? And then what we can do, got a little spring here. Let's hook that like that, and the front part just like that. You see that? Now, what do we need? This pin here has to knock our old pin out. So we're just going to push this in here. I like to just tap it a little bit with a hammer. So what's happening here? As you can see, if I rotate it, our pin is coming out, the main pin's going back in. And what that did, it kept our trigger assembly together. So we're just going to tap that back in there like that. Get this side on here, just like that. I like that right in the middle. So see? So now, this pin's in here, which helps hold cocking arm here, And then we got the safety. Got all our pins in here, our trigger's back in there. Just like that. Yep, that's simple. Let's turn this around so you can see it. Okay, now we have this spring here. Wonder where that goes. Here, let's zoom in on this so I can show you guys this. Nice. Okay, so this spring here, just like that. What's this? This is your safety catch. So when your safety goes back and forth, right here, it catches. That's exactly what that is. Okay, so now we got our trigger assembly back in. What are we forgetting here? What about the pins for the trigger? We've got our trigger back in, got our pins lined up, we got our safety lined up. So what else needs to happen? Little safety's got to go back in here. Right there. Okay, so watch this. So you just got to put the safety back in. Safety back in, just like that. That's it for the safety. That's all there is to it. This is our mount. A little star washer. And it goes right back here. And there we go. Okay, so take a look at this. This is all back together now. Trigger. We've got our front pin in here. Right here. Okay, so we have our trigger assembly all together now. Just so you guys know what this looks like in case you need to refer to anything. There's videos out there where show the complete trigger disassembly. That's why I'm not going to do that, because there's some really good ones out there. But you can kind of see what the trigger looks like all back together like it's supposed to be. Well, I know that was kind of a tough video, and sometimes technically it's hard to follow that. But like I said, the Hatsan's probably one of the more tougher ones to work on. But let's show you the difference in what the seal did. Let's see how well our Hatsan Dominator, our 25 caliber, does after our tune job. Let's shoot 5 shots over the Chrony. We'll see what type of velocity we get out of this now. Hopefully, we're going to see an increase. Alright, shot number 1. 627. I'll be pretty happy with that. Shot number 2. 627 again. Wow. Pretty impressive standard deviation so far. Alright, shot number 3. 628. Whoa. Shot number 4. 627. And one more shot. .633. Well, I got to tell you, I'm impressed. Yeah, I'd say all that hard work was definitely worth it. And a lot of these Hatsans, what I find out, their seals are not very good. So if you can upgrade it with an aftermarket seal, you're probably going to be in a lot better position. Yeah, can you believe that? So we gained over about 110, 115 feet per second. So now we're right in that neighborhood where this gun's supposed to be. Also, let me show you the difference in accuracy, how the accuracy improved. Just take a look at, here's a couple of before targets. Take a look at a couple of those. And now the after target. Just by picking up a new piston seal, putting that new piston seal in there, and remember we honed out the compression tube, this gun shoots much smoother, much more accurate. And it should get better even in time. The feet per second will probably even increase a little bit as the piston seal seats. Because I've only got 50, 60 shots through this max now. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Airgun Detectives. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out my website at www.airgundetectives.com. Occasionally I'm getting rid of some inventory, so just randomly check the website and there might be something on there that you're interested in. They don't last because they're usually one of a kind. So again, I appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget, this is where we take the mystery out of the airgun. Until next time.